Today, we are going to talk about another prominent figure in the Bible. His name is Lamech, a legacy of hope and faith. Lamech, the father of Noah, may not be as famous as his son, but his life carries a powerful message of hope, faith, and God's divine plan. He lived in a time of increasing wickedness, but held on to the promise that God will bring comfort to the world. His story challenges us today. We will trust in God's promises and leave a lasting legacy of faith. Now let's explore Lamech's life, his significance in biblical history, and the lesson we can apply to our modern world. 1. Lamech's background. A man of purpose. Lamech was the son of Methuselah and the father of Noah. You can see this in Genesis 5, verse 25 to 29. He came from a godly lineage of Seth, which was distinct from the sinful line of Cain. He lived 777 years. You can see this in Genesis 5, verse 31. A number symbolizing completeness and divine purpose. Modern application. Lamech was born into a spiritual legacy. He was part of a family that walked with God, including his grandfather Enoch, who was taken to heaven without dying. You can see this in Genesis 5, verse 24. Today, we must ask ourselves, are we walking in the godly heritage we have received, or are we following the sinful way of the world? 2. Lamech's prophetic hope, the naming of Noah. Lamech named his son Noah, saying, "He will comfort us in the labor and painful toil of our hands, caused by the ground the Lord has cursed." You can see this in Genesis 5, verse 29. This shows that Lamech believed in God's promise and had hope that Noah will bring relief to the world's suffering. Lamech likely understood that God had a special purpose for Noah, a purpose that was later fulfilled through the ark and the flood. So, modern application. Lamech teaches us to speak life and purpose over the next generation. The words we declare over our children and others can shape their destiny. Are you speaking faith and encouragement over your family and community, or are you speaking negativity and doubt? 3. Lamech lived in a wicked world but remained faithful. Lamech's time was filled with violence, corruption, and rebellion against God. You can see this in Genesis 6, verse 5 to 6. Unlike the other Lamech, descendant of Cain, who was violent and proud, you can see this in Genesis 4, verse 23 to 24. Noah's father remained faithful and hopeful in God's promises. So, modern application. We too live in a world full of sin, corruption, and immorality. But Lamech shows us that we can remain faithful, trust in God's promises, and prepare the next generation to serve Him. Are you standing firm in your faith, even when the world around you is turning away from God? 4. Lamech's legacy, preparing the way for salvation. Though the Bible does not give many details about Lamech's personal righteousness, we see that he raised Noah, a man who found favor with God. Genesis 6, verse 8. This suggests that Lamech played a role in teaching Noah about God and preparing him for his divine calling. Modern application. Lamech's greatest achievement was not just his own faith, but the faith he passed down to his son Noah. What kind of legacy are you building? Are you raising up spiritual leaders, or are you allowing the world to shape the next generation? So, lesson 5 from Lamech's life for us today. Lamech's example and lesson for us came from a godly lineage. Honor the spiritual heritage you have received. Lived in a wicked world but remained faithful. Stay faithful to God despite the corruption around you. Spoke prophetic hope over Noah. Speak life, encouragement, and faith over others. Raised Noah who walked with God. Invest in raising a godly leaders for the future. 6. The choice between faith and corruption. Lamech lived in a world that was heading for destruction, yet he chose faith and hope in God. Lamech, father of Noah, righteous. Lamech, descendant of Cain, wicked. So we are going to compare those two. Spoke blessing over his son, boasted about killing a man. Raised a godly son, Noah, followed the path of revenge. Lived in hope and faith. The other Lamech lived in arrogance and sin. Left a legacy of righteousness, while the other Lamech, descendant of Cain, left a legacy of violence. So which path are you choosing? Faith and righteousness, or pride and rebellion? So conclusion, will you leave a legacy of faith like Lamech? Lamech was not the main hero of the flood story, but he prepared the way for one of the greatest men in biblical history, Noah. His faith, prophetic words, and godly influence shaped the next generation. Today, God is calling us to 1. Remain faithful even in a sinful world. 2. Speak life and encouragement over the next generation. 3. Invest in raising up godly leaders. 4. Trust in God's promises and prepare for His plan. Are you building a legacy that will bless future generations, or are you allowing the world to shape your family's future? Just as Lamech spoke words of hope over Noah, we must speak life, faith, and purpose over our children, families, and communities. The question is, what legacy will you leave? Amen.